Shalom. And all praise to the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushua Shem Kakbadash, and double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching His truth that's gone all around the earth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is your brother Atazawan from the Great Millstone here in St. Louis. And this is going to be a real quick lesson, all right? And I've done a lesson like this once before, but per a conversation I had yesterday, these people of the world um, think that they're sitting in a judgment seat, and this kind of shit kind of gets on my nerves. But this whole idea about the men of the Lord, you holding Bibles and you cursing, like language is the biggest thing on their mind about how we teach, and it's an annoyance, okay? Because they can't understand what we're saying, for the fact that they're offended in how we say it, and it's really to the point now where the more that they try to accuse us of being loud, obnoxious, to the point of even trying to say that we're wicked, because of some words, some words in a language, right? And in particular, these so-called Christians, these black Christians who go to church every Sunday, go to Bible study on Wednesday, and all these different things that they do, thinking that they're better than the men of the Lord, the real teachers, because somehow or another, quote unquote, Jesus is going to get mad at harsh language and at rude speech, okay? And I had a conversation about this yesterday, and it's utterly ridiculous, because here it is, these same Negroes in the world, have used that kind of speech, still use it, right? And somehow or another, they're forgiven for it. But the men of the Lord, you can't use that speech, okay? You can't use rough language, which is totally like the dumbest thing you've ever heard, right? Somehow or another, they're better than you, that they get to judge you, okay? So this lesson is going to be predicated on that. The fact of the matter is, harsh language is part of what the prophets used in the old time, and it's going to be the same thing this time around. It's not going to be any different, all right? So if you offended over some words of a language that we were forced to learn, okay, then just be offended, okay? Or if you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. In other words, don't stand before the men of the Lord if you don't want to hear the truth. And it's going to come out harsh at times. Now, we don't do it every time, but sometimes if the spirit is on a man, the spirit is on a brother, it may fly out, okay? That's just what it is. All right, so quickly, let's just look at a few scriptures here. All right, this is Isaiah 65. I'll start at verse 1. It says, I'm sorry to them that asked not for me. I'm found of them that sought me not. I said, behold, Salakia, behold me, unto a nation that was not called by my name, which would be the Gentiles of today. I have spread out my hand all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh in a way that was not good after their own thoughts, right? And this whole thing about being upset about how the prophets speak, you cut it out already. You're not going to stop us from speaking the way that we do, because we're in the spirit, okay? A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifices in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick, which is reminiscent or a similitude as to what you Negroes do today in church, in these different churches. Okay, you sacrifice into a false god. You sacrifice into an idol. Okay, the men of the Lord are telling you the real names of the Heavenly Father and the only begotten Son, and you mock and scoff at that, right? But you go to these different places and offer up idolatry or incense unto idols, okay? And your incense don't necessarily mean burning an incense, but just opening up your mouth and praying to a false god, okay? Verse 4, which remaineth among the graves and lodged in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things is in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near me, for I am holier than thou. And that's what you so-called Christians do today. You think that you better than the men of the Lord, right? But you're steeped in idolatry. And you think you're holier than the men of the Lord, the teachers that the Lord set up upon the earth. In this generation, okay? These are smoke in my nose and a fire that burneth all the day. Right, the Lord ain't pleased with you, okay? You sit there and pass judgment on a man that's doing the work of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai while you still in your idolatry. Behold, it is written before me, I will not keep silent, but will recompense it to their bosom. Your iniquities and iniquities of your fathers together, saith the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, which have burnt incense upon the mountains and blasphemed me upon the hills. Therefore will I measure their former work and to their bosom. Right, so you're still in idolatry, calling on white Jesus, Buddha, Allah, all these other different things, right? So you're nobody to judge the men of the Lord, you see? And the Lord is holding your payment. He's going to pay you back. Least ye repent. Okay, you think that you've been cleared, right? I pray every day. I ask the Lord to forgive me for my sins. Who you asking? Jesus the Christ, Buddha, Allah, Santa Maria, Voodoo. You're asking all these fake gods to save you from your sin. Your sin is still on you. Verse 8, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, destroy it not, for a blessing is in it, so will I do for my servants' sakes. See, that I may not destroy them all. All right? So the whole point being is you think you're holier than the men that Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has set up, and you've been out of shape over a few words. Nehemiah 13, and we start right there at verse 23, and it says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod and Ammon and Moab, and the children spake half in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people, right? So we mixed and mingled when we wasn't supposed to, and then our people was picking up the languages of the other nations, which is what you got now. You speak English, Jake speaks English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, okay? It's not your language. You're a Hebrew, and you spoke Hebrew once upon a time. And I contended with them and cursed them. What? Nehemiah the prophet? He used bad words? That's disgusting. You're supposed to be a man of the Lord, and you using words like that? You people are tripping. And I contended with them and cursed them, and smote certain of them. Right, so he even hit them. So he cursed them, and then he hit them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by the Most High, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, and take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. You see, now here's a prophet who used what? Bad language? Is that what you say? Okay. And he put hands on them, and he pulled their hair out. And this is a prophet of the Lord. So the fire and the spirit is on the men of the Lord to get the job done. All right? To make it plain. Matthew 26, let's go up. 30. Salakia. Matthew 26:31, it says, then saith Yahushua unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. All right, this is going into when they were coming to get him, you see. But after I am raised again, Salakia, risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Yahushua said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crows thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. Right. They said, we're not going to deny you, Lord. Right. When they come to get you. Now, concerning Peter, let's drop down. To where it says right here, Peter's denial. Verse 69 says, now Peter sat without in the palace, and the damsel came unto him, saying, thou also was with Yahushua of Galilee. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him and said unto them that were there, this fellow was also with Yahushua, right, of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, right? And he's like, I swear to you, I don't know him. That's what Peter's doing. And again he denied with an oath, and I do not know the man. And after a while came unto him they that stood by and said to Peter, surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech bewrayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear. So you can't say he wasn't using harsh words or bad words. Okay? So even Peter, the rock, right? As you people in Christianity like to say, he has the keys to the gates, right? The disciple and later apostle, right? Curse and swear. Curse and swear. Curse and swear. You're going to say Peter wasn't a man of the Lord, right? Then began he to curse and swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the words of Yahushua, which said unto him, before the cock crows, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly. So Yahushua prophesied to him what he was going to do, what was going to happen, and what he was going to do. And Peter denied that he would. He said, I won't do that. But yet, and still, the prophecy came to pass, in which he did. He denied the Lord. And he was sick about it. But the whole point was, he was a man of the Lord. And what? He used hard language. 2 Corinthians 11:1, it says, would to the Most High ye could bear me in a little in my folly with Salakia. Let me read that again. 2 Corinthians 11:1, would to the Most High ye could bear with me a little in my folly, and indeed bear with me, right? Paul would say, hey, let me just talk to you and break it down to you, make it simple. Okay, for I am jealous over you with godly jealousy, for I have espoused to one husband that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Mashiach. But I feel least by any means as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Mashiach. For if he that cometh preaches another Yahushua, whom we have not preached, giving you another God, which is what you got now when you say Jesus Christ, okay? That's another God that was preached unto our people, okay? Whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him, right? You might be fooled by this. For I suppose I was not behind the very chiefest apostles. Yeah, I wasn't number one. I wasn't, with him at the time, okay? And you might think that, maybe I'm not who I am in the spirit, right? Maybe you got some doubts or whatever. But though I be rude in speech, what is he? Paul is rude in speech, right? He's rude in speech. Let's look at the word rude, all right? Idiotes, right? Almost like idiot. when you go into it, it says what? Ignorant. He was ignorant in his speech or unlearned. He talked like a common man, breaking things down. You see how Jake talked when, you know, he might be on a lower level, right, using certain words. So he broke it down to him to the lowest common denominator in the rude speech. Like Negroes standing on the corner talking shit. Okay? What does it say? Unlearned and educated, one who is unskilled in an art. In the art of what? Conversation or art of speech, right? Not very eloquent, all right? Not an orator, you see? And that's what Jake like. You want to hear somebody that sounds like Martin Luther King every time you go to church, right? Hemming and hawing and huffing and puffing and sweating and hacking, and then you think you hearing something, right? Now you got these new age philosophical teachers, right? Who have the auditorium all dark and black and wearing black and got microphones and tablets in their hands and, like a sci-fi movie or something. See, you Jakes out there, you think that's hip. Anyway, get back to verse 6. But though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things, have I committed an offense and abasing myself that ye might be exalted? All right? Because I have preached to you the gospel of the Most High freely, right? So because I make it easy to understand, I lower myself just so that you can get it and you can be exalted, raised up by me bringing it to you in a fashion that you understand. Okay? You Negroes out there better get out your feelings, okay? Because you're letting the littlest thing, right, keep you from understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth, all right, which are the words of the Lord. Isaiah 29:17, we're going to wrap this up. Is it not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and a fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest? And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. That take a man, Salakia, that make a man an offender for a word, right? And that's what you have. You have people making the men of the Lord, the teachers, the prophets who are on the highways and hedges, even on these videos and comment boards, and coming on the comment board with all your folly. Why are you cursing? I like to listen to you all, but you all curse too much. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. All right. A few words is a stumbling block unto you. Okay, and you make a man an offender for a word. Okay, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and that's what we do. We reprove you in the gate, and you hate it. So you try to nitpick and find something wrong to say, well, you all ain't right. No, it's you that's not right. Okay? That make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing or not. Yeah, you try to convince people not to listen to us because of a few words, and then you turn away the kingdom from them. Going on, it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. But when he seeth his children, the work of mine hands, and in the midst of him, they shall sanctify my name, and sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and shall fear the power of Israel. They also that erred in the spirit shall come to understanding, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. Right? Eventually you're going to get it. All right. Okay. But you're going to have to learn. And that time will be in the kingdom for the majority of you, you 2/3. 2 Kings 2:19. I want to start there yet. And the men of the city said unto Elisha, Behold, I pray thee, the situation of this city is pleasant, as thy Lord seeth, but the water is not, and the ground barren. And he said, Bring me a new cruse and put salt therein. And they brought it to him. And he went forth into the spring of the waters and cast the salt in there and said, Thus saith the Lord, how about Shem Shai, I have healed these waters. There shall not be from thence any more death or barren land, for the waters were healed unto this day, according, so, Salakia, verse 22 again. So the waters were healed unto this day, according to the saying of Elisha, which he spake, right? Another prophet. Verse 23, and he went up from thence unto Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. Bad demon ass kids. Okay? And he turned back and looked on them and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came forth 2 she bears out of the wood and tear 42 children of them. And he went from thence to Mount Carmel, and from thence unto Samaria. Right. So the prophet put a curse. That's a curse. Right? When he put a curse in the name of the Lord on you and you die, that's a curse. But to use certain words, you calling them curse words that mean nothing, it's just rude speech. There's a difference. But you eggheads in the Christian church, you don't understand that. Matthew 7:1. Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Right. So you too busy trying to find something wrong with the men of the Lord, right? And you choose curse words, right? You say that's terrible that you preaching the Bible and saying fucking shit and damn, and that's really the worst thing a person could actually ever do, right? As if you haven't heard those words your whole life and that you never used them. You know. So even for you women out there, a man be put the wood to you, you be saying some words too, right? But I guess the Lord don't hear that then, right? You see, so you're a hypocrite, is what I'm saying, okay? Or what the scriptures are saying. We're going to read it. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Yeah, when your check come up short, don't you go in there and cuss them people out? Right? Verse 4, O how wilt thou say to thy brother, Let me pull out the mote out of thy eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thy own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and turn again and rend you. Right. So we have to preach this truth for sure, right? So that the elect will hear it as we preach the truth. And it really ain't for you niggas. It really ain't for you 2/3 who are so offended. Here you are, you a nigga in the world, but you want to find something to go against the prophets, the teachers with. You ain't repented, you ain't changed, you ain't done nothing. But you want to say we not right because of some words. Okay? And then you want to try to take the words of the Lord and use it against us. Right? You trying to rend us with the words of the Lord. It ain't going to work. Okay? And it's idiotic to have to keep going through this over and over again. But you know what? The Lord made all types of stumbling blocks. And if curse words is a stumbling block, to you because you were 2/3 Negro, right? And that includes you Latinos and Native Americans, all right? Then let it be so. Hope you don't get it, all right? So if you worried over curse words, just don't listen no more. If you see the men of the Lord on the street and the Spirit is flowing and you hear some of them words, why don't you just walk away? Okay? You watch a video, you get in your feelings about a few words, just click on to something else and watch something else. It's that easy. Really, it is. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. Shalom.